everybody. Welcome in to Next Round Preps. John Lunceford, Jerry Young here. And Jerry, we are heading now into week 3. But first, before we get there, we started region play last week.
We did, and I'm glad you brought that up to start with because, you know, there's 2 or 3 games right here in the first round of region, second round of region play that's going to have consequences at the end of October.
There are, and we get to 7-day. There's a couple, especially that I want to focus on when it comes to the playoff race. And yeah, it's only we're only 3 weeks into the season now, but I start thinking of that bracketology. Even at this point, thinking, okay, well, where could this team slot? Where could this team slot? They've only played one region game. Region games are the only thing that counts for the playoffs, unless you get into a crazy tiebreaker, in which case you can go to non-region games. But this is when things kind of get a little busy here, and the games all start counting for a lot more than the first couple of weeks did. But moving into last week, one game, we like to focus on the bigger schools a little bit here, but one game in the smaller classifications I had my eye on, that was Bayside Academy at St. Michael. 2 great quarterbacks here from the state of Alabama, and Barrett Trotter and Phillip Rivers. And Barrett Trotter coming out on top, 27-21. Are you shocked that he's able to get a win from Bayside? I mean, Bayside not a terrible football program before or anything, but are you shocked that Phillip Rivers fell on this one?
No, not really. I don't know why I'm not. I guess, I've known Barrett since he was 10, 11, 12 years old, and he's had his feet under my table many times, and, his parents and I are friends. So I know what this guy coming up was like in high school and college, and then now coaching and being his own first-year head coach. He had some talent when he got there, and that's always the key. If there's somebody there to work with, then you got to have the right person to mold it. But I won't say that I was shocked. I'm a little bit surprised they're 3-0, but not surprised at Barrett's success.
Yeah, great coach comes in, changes that workout regimen, changes the playbook, gets the best out of his players. You got a good football team. So good job by Bayside Academy getting that close win over St. Michael last week. Moving up into Class 5A, Pleasant Grove and Winona. I had this one as a lot bigger spread going into the game based on stats and everything from the first couple of weeks. But Pleasant Grove, they get the win 35-21 over Winona. And Winona trying to make a little bit of a playoff run. Ramsey, Pleasant Grove, the top teams from that region. There in Class 5A. Moody all over Alexandria in this one.
Easy for you to say.
Yeah, 42-7. The Blue Devils get the win. They are off to a great start, already beating Rush Probst and Pell City. And then they're going to beat Alexandria here. And I think they beat Sylacauga in week 2 or in week 1, the second week of the season.
Right.
But yeah, Moody and Leeds, that's kind of a matchup we're waiting for later on in the season there. Ramsey, I mentioned Ramsey with Pleasant Grove and Winona. They beat Jasper 65-6. How about Ramsey? Boy, Ramsey has some legit talent there and looking to win another region title potentially there. Over Pleasant Grove, Leeds beat Springville 23-7. I mentioned Leeds and Moody getting ready to face off later in the season. John Carroll, 45-28 winners over Fairfield. How about John Carroll? Still unbeaten.
Amazing, isn't it?
It is.
I thought that it was kind of a fluke when they beat Homewood because I figured Homewood was better than they obviously are this year. No, slap there, but no, John Carroll's for real.
They are. John Carroll sitting at 3-0 after that win. Homewood at 0-3 after falling to Helena, 31-17. I was getting updates from my dad at that game since I went to Homewood. He was there checking them out and trying to do some construction on the stadium. So the stadium's kind of not fully set right now, but was texting me updates. And I think Homewood I got up 10-0 in that one. And I said, Homewood's turned it around. But Helena ended up rattling off a bunch of points there and winning that one over Homewood. But yeah, the John Carroll win, that kind of definitely set the tone for their season, being able to upset Homewood from just down the street. Gulf Shores, 31-16 winners over Faith Academy down in 5A, down in the Mobile region. Gulf Shores still unbeaten. Any shock there?
No, I don't think so. Faith Academy is always going to have a good football team, but Gulf Shores, we knew when they hired all this coaching staff, they went all in on football. This team's going to be successful down on the Gulf Coast.
Can't wait till Gulf Shores and UMS Wright meet. Should be a good one there. And Faith Academy, UMS Wright as well, all vying for playoff position down there. St. Paul's, team you usually talk about down there as well, used to be 5A. They've moved up in competitive balance to 6A in this latest reclassification. They went to Saraland and lost 47-3. And I've kind of hinted at that so far, and I kind of stay with it. Saraland is, I think, maybe the best team in the state. Period. They have,
really?
I mean, they have
Period.
Mr. Football, reigning Mr. Football coming in, who still has a year left after this. KJ Lacey at quarterback has been really, really good. I mean, they beat Lipscomb Academy in week 1. all those teams down in Region 1, I mean, they're in for a bruising this year with Saraland.
Yeah, and you know, St. Paul's, you know, really and truly should have put a better showing on than 3 points.
Yeah.
That tells me just how strong that Saraland defense is as well.
It is. Only putting up 3 in that one, but 47 for Saraland in that one, looking to win a region title and another state title as they won last year over Mountain Brook. Oxford, they beat Shades Valley 42-13. Shades Valley still trying to find their footing. That's a tough region with Clay Chaltville, who beat Pell City 46-7. Oxford, Pinson Valley is in that region. Center Point is in that region. So Shades Valley trying to get wins where they can, but not able to get it over Oxford as they win. The Yellow Jackets win 42-13. Clay Chaltville beat Pell City. Rush Probe still looking for his first win. Hey, welcome back to Alabama. Here's Clay Chaltville, who's arguably a top 5 team, regardless of classification in the state. I think that argument can be made. We'll see them when they come to Thompson here in a couple of weeks, a game on ESPN, but welcome to Alabama. Clay Chaltville wins 46-7 over Pell City. Gardendale's an interesting team this year, and Mortimer Jordan are an interesting team. Right. 58-21, Mortimer Jordan wins this one, a blowout win at home for Mortimer Jordan. Are you shocked that, Mortimer Jordan beat Leeds? They're 3-0 right now, just destroyed Gardendale. Gardendale's 0-3 right now. A little surprising on both of those fronts.
If you'd have told me that score and asked me to pick a winner, I'd have gone the other way.
Oh, definitely. Me too.
Yeah, so, let's give some credit there as they are Mortimer Jordan is a good football team this year.
And of course, kind of close to each other, that Kimberly area right north of Gardendale that, a lot of kids moving up into Kimberly. I know that area is growing. So congrats to Mortimer Jordan, doing a great job so far this season at 3-0. And, maybe we can make a little bit of a run here in the playoffs. Who knows? Battle of Madison, as we moved to 7A. James Clemens 40-13 over Bob Jones. Bob Jones, my old coach, the head coach of Bob Jones right now, but just not working out for the Patriots. James Clemens, they get first big win
Jets
up in Madison.
For real.
Yeah.
And that, we mentioned this last week, but that game's so big in the Huntsville area up there, Madison area. They played at a municipal stadium, fireworks after the game and all that. It's just that's a real good rivalry. So I am shocked that score was so far apart.
Yeah, so we'll see if James Clemens maybe try to win the region title. Austin struggled a little bit this year. That's who won it last year. But, the Jets, always a contender up there in Region 4 for the region title. Down in Region 1, though, I guess it's an upset with Mary Montgomery over Foley 28-7. When I plug everything into my formula, I had it as a pick-em between the two, very even overall. But Mary Montgomery, a 21-point win over Foley. You shocked?
Yeah, I really am on that one. But, that's their third win, so they're 3-0.
Yeah.
And I look back on one of the games. I had to look this up because I couldn't remember Williamson, but Williamson was 41-2. So basically, the defense didn't give up a touchdown. Charles Henderson, they only gave up 7, and last week they only gave up 7. So obviously the strength of this Mary Montgomery team is their defense.
Yeah, really, really strong defense because Foley, they put up 40-plus on Prattville. Not that Prattville is the best team out of Region 2 or anything, but still, it's Prattville. It's a name program down there. So big win there for Mary Montgomery over Foley. Moving up into Region 2, Auburn. They lost to Enterprise by a point the week before. Last week, they win by a point over Dothan. Some heart attack games there for Auburn, but they do get the win over Dothan. But this coming after a beatdown of Hoover in the first week. Coming up and beating Hoover so bad, and then you struggle, you lose to Enterprise, and then you barely beat Dothan. And then Central Phoenix City destroys Enterprise last week. That makes me think it's Central's to lose, definitely. But where does Auburn ultimately fit in this?
Well, I picked Dothan to win, so I wasn't off but a point and a half. So, I thought – and that – I tell you what that does. It tells you how strong Dothan and Enterprise are. All of a sudden, that part of the region is become a factor in Region 2. I'm glad to see it happening. It's going to be better games. I'm glad that for Keith Etheridge that Auburn came out on top, but that was had to be one of the best ball games in the state. And
Central, they get Opelika next week. We'll talk about that in a second. But you think of the playoff teams: Central, Auburn, Dothan, Enterprise. The next two are Opelika, Prattville, who year in, year out are typically, fighting for a playoff spot. So that's a tough region down there in 7A Region 2. In 7A Region 3, Hewitt-Trussville all over Oak Mountain, kind of riding the ship after losing to Central pretty bad, struggling against Gadsden City. They beat Oak Mountain pretty good, 42-7. Hoover and Spain Park, a close one. I thought Hoover would win by a little more, but hey, Spain Park, they've built up a good program there under Tim Vakakis, and 28-20, the Bucks barely squeak it out. And now Spain Park, they get to host Thompson, who won 21-3. We saw that one against Vestavia. Thompson won that one. But between those 5 teams, which kind of seem to be the 5 separating themselves, Thompson, Vestavia, Hoover, Spain Park, Hewitt, I'm not sure what the finish would be with those. I mean, you kind of lean Thompson 1 right now, but who's number 2?
Well, Hoover is a question mark.
Yeah,
I know there are people that think that Hoover's having a down year, and they could be right. I just think that Hoover is still the key to this region, and looking at how they started is rough at 1-2, but they did handle Spain Park by 8 or 9 points. So, the fact that there's still so many unanswered questions. I'm having trouble finding the right words because it's a big question mark in my mind.
It really is. I mean, it was an easy Thompson-Hoover top 2. Now, who ends up winning that? Because Hoover's actually won the region title the last couple of years. Thompson then wins the state title, kind of an Alabama-Georgia in the SEC scenario. But I don't know that Hoover's the number 2 team. I still kind of sort of lean in Vestavia's direction, even though they lost to Thompson by 18. It was a close game. It was 7-3 for a good chunk of it, and Thompson pulled away late. But is Spain Park there? They had a chance to beat Hoover. Is Hewitt-Trussville, who finally got a big win to sort of region play, are they the number 2 team? I kind of thought coming into the season they could be the number 2 team, but there's a lot of questions when it comes to 7A Region 3 to answer, and guess what? We're going to get a couple games this week to help settle that. We'll get into what's coming up in Week 3, the second week of region play, here in just a moment, but first, Jerry, tell us about one of our great new sponsors.
Yeah, Shepherd Equipment and Disposal. If you need all kinds of services, they do anything from bush hogging. There was a guy that wanted a trail, and I know these off-road four-wheelers, side-by-sides are really popular nowadays, and he wanted a trail built. That's what they can do. They can go in there and level that, make you a trail. They can lay slag on a dirt road. I had another friend that's got, potholes in his dirt road leading out to his barn. They can smooth that out, put the slag over it. They also, I mentioned bush hog, they do also demolition. Like if you got an old shed or old deck on the back of your house you need torn down, they can do that. But also one of the unique things about them is they have dumpsters and dumpster rentals. Now you can get on their program and they'll leave a dumpster there, come by like every other dumpster company every week and dump it, or they'll leave it in your driveway and let you do it. If you got a special product to say you want a demolition or you're redoing your basement or your kitchen, you want to get rid of that stuff, they can leave that dumpster there. So give them a call. You can anytime, or you can always visit them at shepherdequipment.com. Shepherd Equipment. They're a great new sponsor, and we appreciate them joining us.
Thanks so much, Shepherd Equipment, for that. Also, when we get back, we'll give you our Milo's Player of the Week from this past week. A pretty good one this week. A lot of great performances from around the state. We just talked about all the games that did happen. Now we'll move ahead to Week 3 and talk about a couple big matchups coming up this week right here on Next Round Preps.
Have you or a loved one been diagnosed with mild cognitive impairment, which is brain changes that are starting to interfere with your life? Did you know researchers have proven that these brain changes can be slowed down or reversed in many people that routinely exercise their brain? At the Care and Thrive Foundation, we specialize in helping you understand the specific areas of the brain that have changed and develop a brain health plan, including cognitive exercises, adaptive approaches, and helpful technology to proactively stay ahead of your brain wellness. Visit www.careandthrive.org for more information.
We've partnered with Who Is Coffee to create the Next Round Blend, available in light, medium, and dark roast. 100% Arabica beans. Specialty coffee roasted on demand, available in whole bean or ground for drip pods. Espresso and coarse ground for French press. Go to nextround.store to get a link to pre-order today. Everyone that pre-orders will be entered to win a prize pack with coffees, shirts, hats, and tumblers. Nextround.store for the Next Round Blend.
And welcome back in to Next Round Preps. John Lunceford, Jerry Young here as we look ahead now to week 3, what is officially week 3. It's the 4th week of the season, 2nd week of region play for most teams. But before we get into that, I want to give our Milo's Player of the Week, and I want to give it to Brandon Mush. Sorry if I mispronounced your name, from Westminster Christian. Saw the stat line come by, just knew, boy, that was a heck of a performance. 23 of 26 passing for 257 yards and 4 touchdowns. Also ran 17 times for 205 yards and 4 touchdowns in a 56-35 win for Westminster Christian over North Jackson. 462 total yards. Incredible performance there for Westminster Christian and a big win over North Jackson as they started region play. So congrats to Brandon for winning our Milo's Player of the Week for last week. All right, moving on to this week, preview some of the big games. Here, one Thursday game, we mentioned Mortimer Jordan, how good they've been. They're taking on Parker. We'll throw that in there. They are both 3-0, so that's a big matchup there for region play for those two. So Mortimer Jordan going on the road, too. I feel like a couple of their big wins have come from home, so they'll come into Birmingham. Not a super long drive down I-65 necessarily to get to Parker High School, right there off the interstate, but should be a good one there between the Blue Devils and the Thundering Herd. Down south, team we talk about all the time, TR Miller, they are hosting Jackson. We mentioned Jackson last week as well, but Jackson, they're traveling to TR Miller. Should be a pretty good game down South Alabama.
Of course, they blew out Orange Beach 50-2, so another 2-point game. But the game that impressed me is they beat Demopolis.
Yeah.
And if you know anything about that part of the state, Demopolis is always a player, and the fact that they beat them, I just really leaning toward Jackson in this TR Miller game. I just think that Jackson's got it put together this year.
Yeah, beating Demopolis is no easy feat. They're one of those teams always plays really great in the regular season, makes a little bit of a playoff run as well. So we'll see what happens with Jackson and TR Miller. Bibb County, a team we've talked about a bunch too. They're 3-0. They're traveling to Tuscaloosa to take on American Christian, who's at 2-1. Should be a good matchup there in Tuscaloosa in that region. Going up north, West Point. They are at Russellville. Russellville unbeaten on the season. Russellville, a team I know very well from when I was in high school until we played every year in the state championship. But Russellville looking to try to win another region title up in North Alabama this year in 5A. Winona, talked about them falling in a close one to Pleasant Grove last week. They traveled to Carver. Birmingham was also undefeated at 2-0. Winona, that was their first loss of the season last week to Pleasant Grove. But a City of Birmingham matchup there in region play. And UMS Wright, we mentioned UMS Wright. I said I was looking forward to them playing Gulf Shores. Here it is, UMS Wright traveling to Gulf Shores.
Yeah, how do you go against either one of these teams in a game like this? To me, it's a coin toss game. I think UMS Wright's going to be ready to play. They are traveling to Gulf Shores, so if you've never been to the Gulf Shores Sports Complex there, it's on right off of 59 as you're headed toward the beach as you go through Foley. A great complex, a great venue to play football. So it's going to be a good ball game. UMS Wright's going to travel in there and try to do their best.
Yeah, never seen a football game down there, but we did call track down there one time.
Right.
Yeah, it's literally right next to the beach. So a little bit of a trip to the beach from UMS Wright to play Gulf Shore should be a good one there. Pleasant Grove, they're at Ramsey. Could basically be the region title game here in that region. Fully expect Ramsey and Pleasant Grove to continue to be at the top no matter who wins that one. Yeah, Winona competing there, a lot of other teams competing there, but should be a good one there for Ramsey and Pleasant Grove. Central Clay County at Elmore County, threw this one in there. They're both unbeaten right now. Central Clay County got that big one over Ben Russell in that rivalry game a couple weeks ago, and Elmore County off to a strong start as well. So we'll see what happens with Central and Elmore County. Saraland at Spanish Fort. This game used to be a region title game back in the day. Now that Theodore's down in 6A Region 1, not quite a region title game as much because Theodore and Saraland has kind of become the region title game, but should be a really good one between Saraland and Spanish Fort.
Absolutely, but we know that, and you can tell from the way we talk, we think Saraland could be the best team in the state. They're going to roll again over them. I really believe that Spanish Fort's going to play them tough for a little while, but I believe the depth of Saraland is going to make a difference.
Yeah, no doubt. Clay Chalkville, they host Pinson Valley. Pinson sitting at 1-1 in the season. Clay, like I said, they're top 5 team in my opinion in the state. We'll see them take on Thompson later on, but this is a big rivalry game there between Clay and Pinson. Just down the road from one another, and I like Clay in this one. I think Clay's going to roll into Thompson unbeaten.
I do too, but you can't ever tell about this game. It always comes down. It's amazing. I remember couple of years ago, was it? Pinson Valley was having a really rough year, and we both sat here and said the same thing. Oh, no. But I want to tell you, there's something about these rivalry games, these kids knowing each other. I don't know what it is. That's going to be a great ball game.
Yeah, it was right after the Nix family had left. Bo had graduated,
Right.
Caleb had graduated. I think Patrick had already left, but it ended up being like a 2-point, like a 14-12 game that ended up going out down between those two teams. And Clay, on paper, you look at it and think, well, the Nixes aren't there anymore. Clay should have run over Pinson Valley, but that's a rivalry game for you. That's what happens there. Pinson at Clay Chaltville this week in the rivalry game. Pelham, they traveled to Briarwood. Briarwood struggled a little bit, beat Chilton County last week, but Pelham traveling in there trying to play for position in that region with Homewood, Helena, Ben Russell, and Chilton County. I mean, this is a region that's kind of all over the place because Homewood was really good last year. Helena didn't make the playoffs. Now Homewood hadn't won a game. Helena's looking like the strong team. Briarwood finally got a win. Pelham is looking good. They're always looking good. I don't know what to expect from that region, but Briarwood, at least they got in the win column last week.
Yeah, they got in the win column. But I want to tell you, Pelham is stronger this year than they have been in a long time. So watch out for Pelham. They're going to be a force to be reckoned with throughout the year.
Wouldn't totally shock me if Helena and Pelham were 1-2 in that region. Obviously Helena breaking off from Pelham a few years back, but both really good programs there. Hueytown, they traveled to Hillcrest, Tuscaloosa. Hillcrest, always a good team there in 6A Region 4. Hueytown struggling a little bit this year. They did lose to Clay with one of their losses, but Hueytown, they're 1-2 traveling to Hillcrest, Tuscaloosa out in Region 4.
The most important thing there is Hueytown's only wins over Brookwood.
Yeah, and Brookwood, of course, coming from that region as well.
And Brookwood's not very good this year, so that tells you a little something. Hillcrest, on the other hand, 3-0.
Oh, yeah. Hillcrest always a really, really solid team in the state. Centerpoint, we mentioned them in that region with Clay, Pinson, and Pell City. Well, they are playing Pell City. They travel to Pell City. I want to say it's Pell City's first home game under Rush. Maybe one of them was in there, but I don't know. Maybe Clay Chaltville went there last week, actually. Pell City, they're 0-3 right now, 0-1 in region play. Centerpoint unbeaten. We know George Bates does a great job there. It's a tough region with Central and Pinson Valley and Oxford, but Pell City, is this their first win, or they moved to 0-4?
No, they moved to 0-4. George Bates going to have his team ready to play. There's a different atmosphere in Centerpoint. George is in his 6th, 7th year of coaching there after leaving Minor. No, he will roll big. I look for Centerpoint to really have a good ball game.
Yeah, me too. We'll give a shout out to Muscle Shoals. Had a couple people send in pictures this week, say, hey, give some Muscle Shoals some love. 3-0 so far in the season, 1-0 in region play. They're taking on Athens. They're hosting Athens, who's also 3-0. Should be a good matchup there, trying to set up for who's going to be the leader in that region. Muscle Shoals always competing for region titles up there. So we'll see what happens with Athens at Muscle Shoals. Moving into Class 7A, Prattville, they're at Dothan. This is a very important matchup for Prattville because Dothan has looked really strong. We mentioned they had the 1-point loss to Auburn, but it is a loss. So if Prattville can come in, make some waves here, they're sitting at 1-1 in the season, Dothan 2-1 in the season. So it's time for Prattville to kind of get in there and see what they can do against Dothan. However, Opelika, we saw Opelika in person the first week when they played Thompson. Strong at first in that game, kind of fell off. Thompson kind of pulled away late in that one to win 44-13, but they're 2-1. That's the only losses to the number 1 team in the state. They travel to Central Phoenix City, who's looked really strong. Any chance Opelika could pull that upset?
No, just move on. I'm telling you, Central's strong again this year.
Central looking to revenge last year and be 4-0 on the season. In 7A Region 3, Tuscaloosa County, 3-0 again at this point. Tuscaloosa County is one of those we saw last year. It's like the record's pretty good, but on the field we saw it, they weren't quite there yet. They're 3-0 now, going to Hewitt-Trussville, who's 2-1. Their one loss is to Central Phoenix City. Pretty bad loss to start the season off. Can County go to Hewitt and do anything this week?
Okay, well, here's the scenario. If they do, they're 2-0 in the region, 4-0 overall. Could that happen? Yes, it could. I just really think that Hewitt-Trussville is going to be able to hold them off, especially playing at home. I just think that Josh Floyd's going to have them ready. Their only loss to Central Phoenix City, it was a pretty bad beat, though, 49-24, so they doubled up on that. But they've hung 42 points 2 weeks in a row, once against Gadsden and once against Oak Mountain. So 84 points in 7 days, that's hard to beat. I think Hewitt Trustful Rose.
Yeah, I expect Hewitt to put the same kind of points up against County, but can their defense stop County? But County actually coming in with a better record right now at 3-0. But, with as good as Spain Park is, obviously Vestavia playing really well, it's going to be a tough hill to climb for County to make the playoffs. Elsewhere in 7A Region 3, Hoover, they are at Vestavia. We saw Vestavia last week. Super close game. Vestavia easily could have won that game. You see a 21-3 score and think it was kind of a blowout. Not at all the case. Kind of scored late there for Thompson. Hoover struggled against Spain Park, a game that they typically have won and won easy enough. But they got to go to Vestavia. I'm leaning Vestavia in this one.
This game, for this early in the year, to have this kind of impact on the last game in October, so to speak, and where you'll be standing and who will make the playoffs. Can you imagine if Vestavia beats Hoover? I mean, that's going to put them with 2 region wins.
1-1.
1-1.
Losing Thompson last week, yeah.
That's right, because they lost time. The other 2 were big wins, but it wasn't region play. But then we're actually sitting here saying that Hoover would be right above Oak Mountain if you looked at the bracket right now. I just can't hardly see that. I think the Bucks come back. I agree with you. I think John Paul Head might be the difference in this game for Vestavia. I think the Rebels put everything behind him. The defensive guy, and his name escapes
Jordan
me,
Ross.
He didn't have a good game against Thompson, but he's, we've seen him play now. We know he can be an impact player. If he's an impact player against Hoover on defense, and John Paul Head has a good ball game, I agree with you. Vestavia can easily win. Will they? I kind of tend to stick with Hoover on this one.
And everybody saw the Thompson score said 21-3. So they must have won pretty easily. Vestavia only got a field goal. I'll say this. Number 1, Vestavia drove down to inside the red zone twice, got stopped on 4th down. Number 2, I think Trent threw 3 interceptions in that game.
Had 3 picks.
That gave them plenty of opportunity. They had every opportunity in the world to win that game, just couldn't quite pull it out. Trent did have a couple good touchdown passes, and the final touchdown was Zach Sims, the backup, coming in to run that one in. But, we were going to the 4th quarter. It was 7-3, and I'm sitting there thinking, Vestavia is that close to winning this football game, and luckily for Thompson, they pulled it out. But, I'm sitting there thinking Vestavia – do not look at that score and think, Thompson beat Vestavia. Right. Not at all. Vestavia easily, if that game happened over again, you could flip those scores easily.
I know. And not only was going in the 4th quarter it being 7-3, but Vestavia had the ball in good field position. Yep. And they had it in good field position before then as well. I think that 4 down, stopping them on downs was Thompson's biggest accomplishment right there going in the 4th quarter. I think it really helped him, but you're right. The last touchdown was pretty easy, but that touchdown to put them up 14-3 is what separated the game, but that wasn't until late in the ball game.
Yeah, Thompson did a good job scheming away from Jordan Ross as well. Whichever side he was lined up on, go away from him. Right. He was a really, really, really good player in that game, just kind of try to keep the ball away as much as they possibly could. But very interested to see him play against Hoover coming up this week. And then Thompson is going to Spain Park this week, so they just flip opponents. Hoover gets Vestavia, Thompson gets Spain Park. But the Jags will host this one, and it's been a blowout the last few years with Thompson and Spain Park. Can't imagine it will be the same, 52-0 kind of game this year.
No, I can't either. I think that we've been saying this. Obviously, we know Tim Vakakis is going to be a winner at Spain Park. Will it be this week? I personally hope not. I don't think they will. I think Thompson will go in there ready to play ball. I think they'll win again, it's going to be a very similar game to last week against Vestavia. I think it's going to be a tight ball game. However, I said this earlier about Saraland. I'll say this about Thompson. The depth in the 4th quarter with Thompson will probably be the difference in this game and should be won in the 4th quarter by Thompson.
Yeah, depth was definitely what helped him last week as well. So Thompson at Spain Park. Thompson 2-0 in the season. They did have the cancellation against IMG, 1-0 in region play. Spain Park winning a couple games early on. They're 2-1. They beat Briarwood and Calera, I believe, non-region play, but they're 0-1 after falling to Hoover in a close one last week. We'll be calling that game. Where can they watch that?
Yeah, WarriorNationNetwork.org. If you have a subscription to the NFHS network, you can click on the Watch tab and watch the game. If you don't, you'll just want to hear the radio broadcast, It'll be right there. Just click on the Listen tab, warriornationnetwork.org.
All right, that's where we'll be. We'll be out at Spain Park. A lot of good games. I mentioned a lot of potential region-deciding games, and we're only in the third week, official week of the season, the fourth overall week of the season. But we'll see what happens this week. Of course, we'll have it all for you next week on Next Round Preps. For Jerry Young, I'm John Lunceford. We'll see you next week.